Out of here at 5.
It's actually 4 o'clock your time. Okay, meeting of the Fire Adaptive Community Committee meeting. This is a supplemental meeting scheduled at our prior meeting on January the 7th. So meeting is officially called to order at 4 o'clock. So if you could repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance, wherever you may be.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United
United
States
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Liberty and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Secretary, would you have the roll call?
I sure do. Let me make that call. Mike Overby,
Here.
Dave Hartson,
Here.
Don Clark,
Here.
Scott Schaefer,
Here.
Vicki Lennon,
Here.
Mark Manley,
Present.
Ray Honey.
Here. Okay, we got a full attendance. That's great. Okay, the agenda is as follows. If everybody could look at that, and it includes approval of minutes of the prior two meetings. Does anybody want to make a recommendation that we proceed with the agenda as written?
I make a representation that we proceed with the agenda as set.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We didn't have a
Approved?
second. I mean, does
Okay.
it matter?
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye. I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, Dave.
Old business.
Yeah.
One item, fuel ordinance modification, defensible space.
Mike,
Yes.
we haven't approved. All right, we just
Oh,
approved.
that's right. We got to approve those 2 minutes.
Yes, please.
Okay, so the December 10th meeting, I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 10th meeting.
I'll
I
move.
make a motion to approve the December 10th meeting.
I'll second.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the January 7th meeting.
I make a motion to approve the January 7th meeting.
Second,
Second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we can get into old business. Let me just make this first comment, because this is a kind of a different kind of meeting. As the chair of the committee, I want to, follow a little bit of structure here for this to make it efficient, for everybody. I want to start with Martha, the secretary, reviewing changes offered to the ordinance discussed in the last meeting, and there's 2 codes that she'll address. Following that, I'd like to open the meeting up to members of the committee, fire department, and audience who would like to make comments and suggestions. Not knowing, in fact, I would like to find out by show of hands how many would like to make comments. If we have a lot, then we'll have to limit the time, to maybe 3 minutes or so, maybe more if we have only a handful of. So could I have a show of hands of who would like to either pose a question or offer comments on these 2 documents once we hear what they're about? Can somebody take a show of hands? I see one there.
You have 4 hands, it looks like, Mike. 3 in the
4.
audience and 1 on Zoom.
Okay, well, obviously then that won't be a problem. I didn't know who all would be here. So, don't go over 15 minutes. Certainly try to keep it to 5 to 10 if you can. So that said, Martha, could you kind of do the overview of the 2 versions that came about from the suggestions offered?
Martha, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Thank you. We have 2 versions. The draft 3, which is the last draft that we talked about on our January 7th meeting, and it is only addressing residential lots with structures. Then we have draft 4, and we've had some additions to that along the week. draft 4, it includes that section 4 that talks about lots greater than 5 acres. And we've had a lot of input on that as well. So those are the 2 drafts that we're looking at right now.
Okay, so just like, I don't know, who's in the audience, I can't see, but if you're there, could you go to the mic so we can hear you clearly? Anyone want to raise your hand to be the first to ask questions or make statements, comments, suggestions?
We're gonna nominate Lindsay to go first because I keep talking over her at all the other meetings.
Okay,
All right. Basically, so Chief's not here today. I'm trying to kind of be the fire department's voice. And honestly, I don't think that from like an ecological standpoint that it looks bad. I think that the second draft with the fuels code one, I don't think it looks bad. I think it does look good. I think Chief's main concern is just kind of on the back end of things, just having something that's enforceable and that he can keep up with. And I know that our previous defensible space ordinance is something that they kind of wanted to tier so they could keep up with the back end of things. But otherwise, I mean, from my expertise, I don't think I think it looks sound. I think it's just, really just trying to enforce it. And that's kind of all I have to say on that. If you guys have any questions for me, I can try to answer them on the fire department's behalf. But if I can't, I would still just email or call Chief, honestly.
Yeah, this is Mark Manley. I have a question. Which version are you talking about?
The fuels management code one.
So there were 2 versions. There's version 3 and version 4. Which version are you talking about?
Version 4.
Okay, because you were copied on all of the email, and unless the chief has had a radical change of heart, I would say that everything you just said is not indicative of where the chief is on this. So did you have discussions with the chief that we're not aware of?
So I mean, I think we both can understand like that verbiage wise.
My question is have you had discussions with the chief since all of the emails where he has expressed a complete change of heart, or was that your opinion and editorial on where he stands on all of this?
No,
it's a very simple question.
I'm saying like verbiage wise, if this is something that is you guys are wanting to go forward with, obviously.
I'm sorry. It's a very specific question. Have you had conversations with the chief related to his change of a complete change of position on Ordinance 4?
No, he hasn't changed his mind, and I'm sorry if that didn't reflect that. I don't think Chief has changed his mind on the fact. I was just trying to explain where he and I are kind of coming from on the pushback for the fuels ordinance. I think verbiage wise, it looks great. I think that if you're trying to enforce it, it's not something that's going to be able to be enforceable. And that's kind of what Chief was trying to come across with his emails. And same thing with mine. I think ecologically, like, it looks fine. That's my expertise. Like, I don't think that, this isn't something that we couldn't do in the future, but I don't think that it's something that the fire department can handle right now. And I think that's what Chief was trying to convey. So, yeah, if you have any questions along those lines.
Folks, I think we are way off track. I've been, very clear about this since the beginning. I think we really need to step back and look at what we're trying to achieve here and to take small steps. I think everybody here is attuned to and understands what happened the last time this happened. The reaction from the community was not good, and we seem to be headed down the same exact road. The resort's got a lot of land. This is not about that. This is about what this community can stomach, and version 4 is not it. and I'm not going to vote for it. You guys are certainly able to vote to pass this along to council, and I'll work with council to revise it. But I honestly, I think that this is misguided. I think the chief was really clear about that in his emails. I tried to support that. I think we're off base here, and I think we need to take a really good hard look at what we're trying to achieve.
Can I say something here? This is Vicky.
Absolutely, we can see and hear you.
Okay. The problem with the vacant land you're going to have is a lot of people have not paid their taxes, have not paid their dues, have not paid their assessments. And you're going to try to force them to clean up and pay that or penalize them. Basically, you're raising bills, and you should back off. Until you get the residential area cleaned up, you should back off the land. And that's my opinion.
We have another hand raised on Zoom and here in the audience. Which one do you want first, Mr. Chair?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Jay.
We have a hand raised in the audience and a hand raised on Zoom. Which one do you want to recognize first?
Okay, hand raised in the audience.
I wasn't going to.
Oh, okay.
I'll take last.
Okay, sorry. We had a couple of hands in the audience. Brian Lindsay is here and is going to make a comment. So I think you guys have to decide what you can put forth a motion on. I have put together a spreadsheet that the village manager is reviewing on the impact of what fees will do as compliance percentages raise. I hope that we'll have that ready to present in time for the work session next week. So we will be able to go through that, but it seems like the largest point of contention amongst the committee is including the undeveloped dirt or not. Is that a fair assessment of where the committee is currently?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so obviously get input from everyone here. The committee can choose to put forth either draft or neither draft. It's entirely up to you. But I take Mr. Manley's point well. The point here is not to choke this process again. The point is not to make this so onerous as to be impossible again. The point is to get something primarily that is going to allow homeowners to start to have a path to get insurance. Now, necessarily, if you choose not to include the undeveloped land and we do the fee shifting schedule, that will give no path to compliance for the lots that are undeveloped. And I think that's okay. I think having something in 25 and then something again in 26, this is going to be baby steps through the process of both compliance and material handling from the fire department side. So that's what I have.
Okay.
I'll step aside and let the next question go.
Anyone else in the audience raise their hand?
Yeah, go ahead. I have a couple of things.
So there's we have one on Zoom. I'm sorry,
Okay,
I don't know
on
if you can
Zoom.
hear you.
Yeah, this is Naomi Engelman. I am a community navigator on contract with the Forest Stewards Guild. And I felt like this issue was a little bit over my head. So I asked the leadership at the Forest Stewards Guild for their opinion on this, because obviously this is a really contentious issue. And while we can't speak to the ability for the village to enforce compliance, the Forest Stewards Guild believes that there are many other communities that have successfully put in place ordinances that regulate vegetation management prior to lot development. Flagstaff is an example of that. And they have very detailed ordinance specific to vacant lots. And it does not have an insurance fallout there. And the guild's opinion is that Angel Fire can do the same. There are many examples where, you know, first of all, you guys don't want to destroy your beautiful community. So I think everybody is in agreement that, you know, you need to do what is best for the community in the long term. And I believe, I don't want to 100% speak for the Forest Guild because I'm a contractor, but in my opinion, I hear them suggesting that you include a vacant lot component and that it can be phased in. Perhaps you don't have to, enforce it immediately, but not including it and not giving people a heads up that this is an important piece of protection and maintaining your beautiful resort area. Not including it is not achieving your goals. And I believe they think that that would be an oversight ultimately. And there is an upcoming conference on the importance of it's called Risk Assessment, Property Prices in Peril, and I can share that information in the chat. It's Tuesday, February 4th. This is a nationwide conference that's held online. It's a webinar, and it's talking about climate implications and how that is going to be affecting property prices. And I think you guys would find that useful and interesting. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions and provide more information in the chat that are direct quotes from Forest Stewards Guild leadership.
Anyone else from the Zoom audience want to make a comment? Okay, David.
Are we talking about spacing of crowns on lots with structure?
Well, that's the version 3. Yes.
Now, version 4 got all this spacing redded out. Is that correct?
No, I mean, it contains everything in version 3, and the only difference is we added a section 4 that covered the unstructured lots. So everything in 3 is also in 4, except for that one item.
Okay.
Anyone
As a
else?
comment, having owned a little more than 6 acres on the ski hill side until 2.5 years ago, and having personally cleared half of it and paid to clear or thin appropriately another half of it. I think that the area within 5 feet of structure should have no flammables, and 5 to 30 feet, I believe the 18-foot spacing applies. Beyond 30, to force people to crown space at 12 is going to result in an unmanageable amount of slash, and I think will not be accepted by landowners in the village.
You're talking about a change to the version 3 that everybody else up till now seems to be in agreement on? Maybe.
No, I don't think everyone is in agreement.
Even on the version 3, is what you're saying.
Right. I've thought about it a lot, and the honest truth is what we are trying to do is to keep a once in 50-year very low humidity of the fuel, very low relative humidity, and very high wind situation from basically burning over the entire village.
So I don't, this is the frustration of having multiple versions of the document.
Right.
I don't know that you're correct in draft ordinance 3, that in the extended zone, there is crown spacing. Can you please?
All it says is 18 feet of space between crowns. This applies to flammable species and does not include aspens. It doesn't say, it says 18 feet. And then we talked a lot about this. Mary Stuber has talked a lot about this. It's not just tree to tree. It's, you have groups of trees and then you have some open space around those groups of trees. It's not 18 feet between every single tree. And it's really depends on slope, and it depends on, you know, having an expert come out and make assessment.
That's the way I read it.
So Dave, I don't know where you're getting the 9 feet or what, 10 feet. I don't know. I don't know where you're getting that, but it's not so.
Okay, page 7, the one with the ellipses from structure, which is
Okay, that
know.
drawing probably, yes, that drawing needs to be redone, and you've made the point there, because it shows the further out you go, the closer the distance is. I think that drawing is not correct. But I'm talking about what it says in 3.2. It doesn't say 6 feet. It doesn't say 12 feet. I don't know why that's the way it is.
Okay, the first zone is structure to 5 feet. And what does it say that anyone is allowed to have?
Yeah, that drawing, just forget that drawing. We need to take it out. It's not what, it doesn't represent what is written in the document. So don't pay attention to that drawing. Pay attention to the word document.
Anyone in the audience that hasn't made a comment that would like to?
Yes. I'm Brian. So I'm BDL Forestry, independent consultant. I'm also with Angel Fire Homes, Real Estate and Construction. So you see, I have both my feet in both worlds, right? So I understand the balance of what we're trying to do here. And through my own research recently, I've talked to a lot of insurance professionals just for many different concerns here. The other day, I did have a good talk with Lindsay and Chief Vance about their considerations for this. And we're at the same bottleneck that we've been at since a year ago and since we've been at for 10 years, is where does the slash go, right? So that's something that we have to take to the comprehensive committee, or something that still needs to be addressed. The other issue is trying to find out what insurance really needs, because the way I see it, we have 3 issues here. We have homeowners insurance, we have fire mitigation, and we have forest health, right? And those things we need to find that balance in this. This documents do give us that. And I do want to commend Lindsay on doing an excellent job. In her first quarter of work, employment, she has put together an excellent document. I can get behind either one of these and be okay with it, because it's actually doing something, right? We are moving forward with something. So either one of these documents is acceptable. Through my talks with insurance professionals, I asked them point blank, what is the impact of vacant lots around a home built on a half an acre? And they said, it is high, it is critical. Every insurance person that I talked to said that is something that they take into consideration. I've had friends in this community that their insurance has been canceled because of the lot next door. So when we're talking about insurability and we're talking about insurance, it has to be talked about. I've seen this for a couple of decades, and if we don't do something now, we're just going to continue on business as usual. So that's kind of where I see things at this point. Talking with the insurance companies, they said, look, insurance is very cyclical. It's in a very bad place right now. They can't afford not to insure high fire communities, because these communities are people that are highly insured and they pay their bills. And the insurance community can't, in the long term, not insure and not have this business side of the market. I asked, it was Joseph from Thomas Gutierrez in Taos, and I asked him, what can we do? And I asked him, we're doing this defensible space ordinance. What are the main things that are keeping us from not being insurable up here? He said, one is your ISO ratings, which we all know. That's a different issue. That's for another committee and other departments to deal with. We're all aware of that. Two is becoming a FireWise community certified. They are very, very surprised that we are not, as Red River is, Hidden Lake, Taos Pines, Ute Park, Elk Ridge, and others in Black Lake that are starting to go down this path. And I guess it's my concern, and I understand the backlash of people in the past, but the deal is people need to be educated. And that's where Lindsay has done a great job, and I'm here to help her. We're going to start doing some community forums where we can start talking to people about these things. Jason Chaffee, who is a real estate with, I believe, Allstate out of Amarillo, Texas, is a homeowner here in Angel Fire. He's agreed to be an ambassador for our program. He's agreed to join on as kind of an insurance liaison. He has a lot of connections, from his own words, into the corporate world of the higher ups in his insurance. And he wants to see this, like we've all said, the reason we're all here is because we love this community. This is a place that everybody loves, and we don't want to see it destroyed in one way or another. We don't want to see catastrophic fire, but we don't want to see us make the wrong decisions and have lasting consequences on our forest structure. So again, it is all dependent, and I think both these drafts do lay it out in that manner. But what we need is something, and it's my understanding that this first year is all voluntary compliance anyway. So when we talk about enforcement, the first year is voluntary compliance. Is that correct?
There are no fines in here per se. The language in section 9 holds off on any fining until 50% compliance. The only thing that is in here is the fee shifting. Compliant lots will see their wildland fees cut by 50% in this draft.
Right.
Once a year, those will be recalculated via resolution, and whatever savings are passed on to compliance lots, we will increase costs on non-compliant lots to pay for that, so that the income to the Village of Angel Fire remains neutral.
Okay, right.
So if you save $1, somebody else has got to come up with a nickel
That's
20 times.
the progressive tax
Yes.
on the deal. Yeah. And I see that. So that's the one mechanism that would be in place.
Correct.
So we do still see that, and I understand the fire department's issues, and I understand, and talking, Captain Romo has been successful with getting some homeowners, with these letters that we've produced. But the thing about is moving forward with this is we have a lot of work to do. So it's going to happen now, or it's going to happen later. Does it want to be in this document, or do we want a separate document that can be enforced separately, or another guideline? What we need, and I think what we need to start doing, and this is my opinion, is that Lindsay and myself and the other ambassadors that we collect need to start going to the community and to the homeowners themselves, because it is their responsibility. They just don't know how to do it. They don't know who to call. They don't have the technical skills. They need technical advice. They need advice. They need a list of contractors that they can call, because it's just like trying to get a plumber. Who do I call, right? When I don't know any, in this community, and what is that technical advice? So that's where we need to have these community meetings, and this document needs to be used to be able to educate the people and how they need, and having the resources of Lindsay or forest ambassadors to be able to go to the properties and give them the technical advice, right? Now, I think the more we put it out there, and then we need to be able to do that with the vacant lots, because the issue is not going to go away. And that has been the issue for quite some time. A lot of homeowners have taken it upon themselves already to clear around their homes because their insurance is forcing them to do it. Their insurance is suggesting to it, or they were just so damn scared the last time a fire came through, they took some action and started to protect their own private property, which is the proper way to go. The problem is, and we all know other people are absentee, or as Vicky pointed out, there are so many people in arrears that they're never going to get out, right? And so some of those, it would be unenforceable, but what we need to do is start encouraging people and giving them the guidelines so they can empower themselves to do their property and do it as a community. And this is where the whole Firewise thing comes in. And we understand why it's been pushed in the past, because there's keystones you have to hit. You have to have so much production every year. But we need people to be on board as a community to say, look, we all love this community. We don't want to see something bad happen. We don't want to lose it. We want to have industry, economy. We want to have forest health, animals, trees, water, watershed, all the factors that we're looking at here. So that being said, I think either draft is good. I think, in my opinion, it's if we just want to focus on houses now and then tomorrow start working on a fuels ordinance for vacant lots, that needs to be done in the next quarter.
Mr. Chairman, I've got two quick questions.
Go ahead.
Brian, good to talk to you the other day. And I just, one of the things I meant to ask you, and perhaps you had this information from the insurance professionals you mentioned that you had discussed this with, but were you able to get a sense from them? And I think everybody's aware of the issue where we've got a structure but it becomes uninsurable or very difficult to insure because of the land around it that the homeowner does not control. Did they give you any kind of guidance on how to deal with that? We can't be, I mean, it's an acute problem in Angel Fire for sure, but we can't be the only community that deals with this kind of thing. And I think, you know, I mean, everybody, unless you're living in some of the older parts of Angel Fire where there are many, many houses on the lots, for instance, where I live, there's nobody near me. I'm red tagged because of what's on the side of me. Do they have any advice to how to deal with that? Because like I've said before to this committee, I can't go on my neighbor's property and clear it. Not only is he not even alive to give me permission, but you know, nobody knows even how to find any heir to this particular one. Now that's just one property, but I think it's indicative of the things we're challenged with all around the community. Do they have any advice on how to deal with that?
No. So short answer, they did say it was important and it is something they look at, but they did not say that. They said, no, that's where, you know, the Gutierrez agency in Taos was just asking, you know, what our plans were to become a certified Firewise community, because that does help. You know, that is one thing, getting these certifications and on a standard basis. That's why Mr. Chaffee has agreed to join our ambassador program, because he's actually Canadian by birth and lives in Amarillo, loves Angel Fire. This reminds him a lot of his home. And he said he wants to tackle these solutions, because we had a long conversation and he could not understand a lot of what has not happened in the past. And his thing was he did not understand the feedback from the people, but I do. I get it, right? And it is hard to understand why some people just refuse to see the reason, but that's their private property. That's their deal. So Mark, to answer your question, his idea was, and getting up with his higher ups and Allstate and figuring out, you know, after this, you know, everything that's going on around us these days, he said he would love to see Angel Fire become a model community, become an example of how we do this, because he's also baffled. That is a sticking point, is we cannot control someone else's private property. And that's, unless we go into, like this is said, you go into, you know, liens, but then you're just burying people further in debt, or reaching out to people and just saying, look, you know, it's like, so where I live, it's how we keep a fence, right? It's my fence, it's our fence, right? I buy the post, you buy the wire, right? You buy the post, I'll put them in the ground. So say, okay, let's try and find, and that's where I think this ambassador program needs to come in to play, to help people find solutions, to say, how do we, one, educate people on why this needs to be done and why it is so important, and two, how do we relieve the burdens of price and efforts, you know, and indemnity too. Like, I go start cutting trees down on your lot, I get hurt, next thing you know, I might try and sue you, right?
Yeah.
I won't, but somebody will.
No, there's no question. And that's, you know, this is one of the, I think the key points that the committee needs to focus on, because, you know, if we try to pass something that is too broad, I believe it will be rejected. If we deal with defensible space, but we all recognize that one of the things that greatly imperils your defensible space is what is on the unimproved, undeveloped lot right next to you with an absentee owner. You know, again, let's take some small steps here. And if we are educating people, especially those folks, you know, then a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, we bring more people along, because that to me makes a heck of a lot of sense. What you're doing directly next door to my house that's impacting my insurance premiums, let's deal with that. Let's not deal with every single landowner that's got no structure anywhere near them. It's too much too soon. And I think we're not going to get the response we want if we go at it in a more measured pace and specifically have the village assist with like we've all identified. I can't go on my neighbor's property, but the village can. And if that's in terms of, you know, so there's a defensible space, and that defensible space, meaning it's defensible around a structure, is larger than just the average lot size. I think that will bear fruit quicker and set us up for long-term success, as opposed to just trying to go and do it all at once. That's just my opinion on it.
Okay. I haven't heard from either Ray, Don, Scott on the committee. Do you have any questions or comments?
I think Mark's on the right track. I've said from day one, we have to figure out a way to protect the structures. There's so much acreage out there that's not anywhere near anybody's home. Yeah, someday we probably need to address that acreage, but the lot surrounding my house, I'm in the same boat. Who knows who the owners are? There's no, you know, I think Mark's on the right track. I just don't know how, and this may be up to council to figure out how to include the vacant land that surrounds structures. So many feet, so many acres. I don't know how to go about it, but I think he's on the right track there.
And this is one of those things that I think the committee can, if we get it pointed in the right direction, it's, again, you know, I mean, we're not public ordinance drafters. That's what the village attorneys are for. But if we can say, hey, you all, we need an ordinance that we can enforce, and we just, and it needs to point towards everything we just discussed. I won't reiterate, right? But we are going to need some help on how does the ordinance impact lots next to defensible space, where the defensible space is larger than the homeowner's footprint. And, you know, again, we don't need to draft this soup to nuts and get every word correct. We just need to give a direction to village council to say, we've identified this as a problem. We need your help in drafting enforceable legal language that gets us there. I think that's all we need to do. And again, I'll say it again. We don't need the perfect to be the enemy of the very, very good. I think we can get something good and say, here's some spots where we need some help. We need a public ordinance drafting expert to help us get it across the finish line. But we're like standing on the 5-yard line. Like we can get it there.
Don or Scott, comments or questions?
This is Don. I agree with Mark totally.
Okay, Scott?
I do really like this phased in approach that has been talked about and that's in here. And I think that is something that the committee and the council can work with it seems to me like we're trying to get something going here in the next couple months, something that we can actually start on. And I agree with continuing to work on what Mark has brought up, because I do agree with what Mark said about vacant land that near structures that you don't have any control of. But I think that can be a phase of this, and when we do get the verbiage right and we get counseling from some attorney that's good at this, we can then go to council and say, hey, I think we got our next phase. We suggest it be put into effect on such and such a date. But I agree with Brian here that this is a good document, and it covers a lot of what needs to happen in the village, and it's a good first step.
Okay, could I take a few minutes just to offer my thoughts? And I'll start off with, the last meeting, and then very well stated that this needs to be phased in, even when they were talking about the defensible space. So, and I said, we need to have something. And at that point, I didn't know what the something was, but I've researched it, and a number of us have visited Ruidoso. They've had this challenge for a lot more years than we have, and they've had a code in effect probably over 15 years. And that code has a section on this. It's probably saved their butt, okay, to just be frank about it. And how they dealt with it was, they had the 3 perimeters around a structure, and they didn't address anything, up to 5 acres if it didn't have a structure on it. And I think there's a good reason for that. And the way they stated is there are fewer of those 5 acre plus parcels then a lot of the single acre parcels are up to 4 acres, so a fewer number that you really are dealing with. And so I just took that, I looked at it, it didn't apply to us in complete form, but basically it said, you got to submit a plan, okay? And there is no real, it's not like so many feet between crowns or any of that stuff, but 2 main things is ladder fuels to keep, crown fires from occurring. And it said perimeter. So if there's a perimeter next to a lot with a structure, they've got to go so many feet in. And they didn't say that, but that's a part of the plan. Depends on the topography, the slope. It depends on, how close is that home to the perimeter, so that, I guess, was the reason for my suggesting that we look at that. Again, the whole comment of phasing it in and having something in place to address that. So, I mean, the other comment, that I'm sure Brian could have mentioned is, we hear all the winds up to 100 miles an hour in LA. Hey, we had 75-mile-an-hour winds just south of us. We can have crown fires with the right conditions. I've been a smoke jumper. I've faced crown fires. I've run from crown fires. It's not a pretty picture. So that was my position. If somebody wants to modify that section 4 to make it, a little more, reasonable, I'm certainly open to that, but something needs to be in there that says we will have an ordinance, and it's going to be something like a plan needs to be submitted over time. So that's my comment. Any other comments before we ask for a vote?
I'd like to make a comment. Would that be okay?
Go right ahead.
I think that, you know, the draft 3 is solid. There's no question about it. And it gets the support from the fire department. I think some mention has to be made, though. Some mention, just because the residents and our community members, the people I've spoken with, and then Brian's spoken with insurance agents and such. And we have Naomi here who has talked about the importance of it. We have to write something in that draft 3 that says this is phase 1, you know, and it does say, you know, it says right now phase 1. And then we have to make a plan that we are going to start on phase 2 soon. But something needs to be put in there that we're not just silly and thinking that, oh, this is going to solve the problem, but rather we are looking forward. We're starting with this phase and we're going to move to another phase. So something, you know, in the title that says that, you know, and also maybe some wording in there.
Mr. Chair, you have one other person looking to make a comment.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
You have another person looking with their hand up, looking to make a comment.
Yeah, anyone?
Yeah, Mike, this is Charles Fiedler. Been listening patiently with everything that y'all have been talking about and been following this for the 15 years that I've owned property in the community and busted my ass to try and make my property defensible like everybody. I think the point that's being missed here is we're talking about the defensible space, but we're ignoring it once it hits the property line. And unless you have a section 4 in there that addresses how you deal with the defensible space that you have to modify that's not on your property, the insurance folks aren't going to take it seriously because you're saying, well, you know, if it's not on their property, they can't do anything about it, but then they're not going to insure you if you don't do something about the defensible space that's not on your property. You're in a catch-22. And it's going to take the village and it's going to take the resort to be partners in this because a lot of that defensible space is in the resort.
Yeah, that's not true.
My property backs up on
That's
open
fine.
space.
That's your property. That's one property out of thousands.
I've got
that's just
50
not a
that I
correct-
look out
that's
on
just
that
not a
back
correct
up on it.
statement.
Well,
Not a
if you
correct
don't,
It's fine.
Mark, fine. If you don't address the defensible space in total in this draft, you're pushing the ball down the road.
I literally just got done explaining exactly the problem you just again highlighted using different language, but then pointed out that in your opinion, it's the resort that's causing the problem.
I didn't say it was the resort, Mark. Please get off. Get off.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard.
Mark, let him speak. Let him finish speaking.
I did. I'm responding to what he's saying, Miss Ashley.
I'm just saying you have to allow people to protect their property. That's what the insurance companies are coming to my neighbors and saying. They're saying to them, you've got to have 100-foot space around your property, 50 of which isn't on their property, or we're not going to insure you.
That's exactly what I just said. I said we have to figure out a way to handle this. It's one thing if the defensible space is entirely on the homeowner's property. I literally just got done saying the problem is when we have absentee landowners that are next to the defensible structures you're trying to protect. And we're not ordinance drafting experts. We need assistance there because it is going to take a municipality through its powers to then deal with a property owner that is within the defensible space, but not part of the structure, that the ownership of the structure. And that's what we have to, that's what I am suggesting that this ordinance comes to. And just to go back to what Miss Ashley was just saying, we have, those are key points, Martha, but they don't necessarily have to be in the DSO. We have to educate people about that. But I'm sitting here thinking, how am I supposed to draft an ordinance that would deal with everything you just said? Now, I'm not saying it's not important. It is. I'm suggesting it doesn't. When you try to draft legislation that says you're going to do something in the future, but it doesn't say exactly what you're doing now, it's a recipe for disaster. And I'm confident that the village attorneys will say the same thing. So again, it's important. Everything you said is important. I agree with everything you said. I just don't think it's appropriate to put in the draft of the legislation.
Well, we got two challenges here. We got two versions that, we've reviewed, pros and cons. And then Mark's statement of send it over to experts for a third version, perhaps. I don't know. Is that kind of what you're saying, Mark? So we can't
the village council's got it. I mean, you can't send an ordinance straight to council. I think Manager Weir pointed that out at our last meeting, that the goal from this meeting, which I requested, the goal is to get a draft to council before it can go, to legal counsel before it can go to village council.
Well,
I think that's what Manager Weir is.
I was around on that committee that drafted the first fuel ordinance. And at that point it went to legal. It had a section in there about, non-structured lots. So at that point, maybe there's a different set of eyes, of legal eyes. And now you're saying that,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I could interrupt this, because you're running out of time here.
Yeah. We got 6 minutes.
Here's the intention, and here's my question for the committee. The intention from this meeting is to vote something to notice to proceed to council. There is a work session and a council meeting next Tuesday where this could be debated till the cows come home. The notice to proceed is to move forward with sending whatever you guys decide to council off to legal so we can start to have this thing professionally crafted into an ordinance.
Okay.
So my question of you, does someone want to make a motion on one, either, or both of these documents to elevate to council before the end of this meeting or not?
The answer to that is yes, and we have 6 minutes. And that was my next question is, since we really have two things, I guess there needs to be every individual will be called on to say, I am in favor of version 3 or I'm in favor of version 4. So Martha,
there needs to be a motion. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion. Good point.
Mr. Chair,
that
you don't
we follow that protocol.
For a motion.
I would like to make a motion. Anybody second that
Mr.
motion?
Chair, you don't make motions. You call for motions.
You're the chairman.
I'm sorry, Jake. I can't hear all you're saying.
You don't make motions. You will call for a motion.
That's what I said. I'm sorry if I've misstated. I want to call for a motion. Anybody have a motion? So we're not going to vote.
I make a motion that we pass 3.
I think what you're really saying is you make a motion that we vote on it.
We make a motion that we vote on number 3.
Anybody have a second to that motion?
There was a hand raised, but I don't think we can hear you, Dave. You're still on mute. I'm sorry.
Dave, did you second that motion?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
No.
So the motion was, we'll go around each person and you'll state your preference for 3 or 4.
Wait, what are we
That's
doing?
not the motion.
All right, the motion was, Vicky made a motion to vote for draft 3. Dave second that emotion.
Okay, so everyone that wants to vote for that motion needs to raise their hand. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would recommend that you have your secretary do a roll call vote on this so it can be recorded for the record.
Okay, that's good.
Point of order.
Discussion.
Point of order.
Yes.
Mike, I'm making a point of order that I'm asking for a clarification, a procedural clarification on the motion. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got version 3 in the crosshairs. I'm not sure the motion is clear on whether it's going to be sent to council with the committee's recommendation that it pass it, or if we are saying we are suggesting that it goes, again, I need to be more clear. Are we saying it's going to village council, or are we suggesting that that the version we have is to go to legal counsel so that it can then go to village council?
I think it should go to legal counsel.
Yeah, that's what I understood from our meeting last time, is that was the process that the village wanted to.
Understood. I just want to make sure it's on the record that that's
Legal
what we all
counsel.
are voting for. So the vote, the motion would be to send version 3 to legal counsel.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Martha, could you roll call?
Discussion.
Discussion? Yes.
I've got a question.
We have a question here from one of your committee members in the audience.
This is Scott. I've got a question. I only got one version. And it's says Village of Angel Fire Fuel Management Code on the front. Is this?
4. That's version 4. Everything, Scott, everything in that copy you have, if you took out section 4 of that would be version 3.
So section 4 has been added to the one that you have in your hand.
It doesn't have section 4.
Okay.
This is the difference between 3 and 4.
Okay, my question is answered.
Okay. Okay, so how about a roll call vote here? And this is, Vicky made a motion to send draft 3 forward to legal counsel. Dave seconded that motion. Now we're asking who is in favor. Mike?
No.
Dave?
Yes.
Don?
No.
Scott?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Mark? Mark?
He's muted. Hold on.
Apologies. No.
No?
What, you don't want to?
Ray?
Yes.
Martha is no. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 no's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses.
Wonderful.
And that was draft 3. The motion.
Anybody got a coin? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, shall
Mark,
we?
did you really want to vote no? I mean, I don't know if you. Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion? Chair, could you ask for a motion on who would like to, if there's anyone who wants to send draft 4? I don't know. What do we do next?
To me, it's, it's like the other side of the coin. If you voted for 3, you're not going to vote for 4, I don't think, but I'll make if somebody would like to make a motion to adopt version 4.
What are we doing here? Don't we want to send something on to legal? Why do you not want to send draft 3 on to legal?
There's been a motion and it was voted on. It did not pass. It's dead. So there needs to be, before we start talking again about or having a discussion, there's got to be a motion to talk about something. Otherwise, it's off the agenda, and it's not proper in terms of how the committee functions. There was a motion, it didn't pass.
Okay, so we have to discuss something. I mean, are we just going to end this meeting having accomplished?
No, what should happen is there should be a motion to either adjourn or a motion to take up other business. If you all want to make any motions, otherwise someone should make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Who seconded that? Who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark. Okay.
So we're going to kick the can down the road. Okay.
I don't know what we're doing. Oh, my.
We need one more committee member to break the tie in the future. Anybody not want to be on the committee? It's another way to do it. Okay, well, it is officially 6:00 or 5:02. So at this point, we will end the meeting.